For now you are
Lindy Morelli, who is a canonically recognized Carmelite hermit in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and with a ministry called Lighthouse.
I love you most.
Oh, does this look good, or do you want me to do anything else to adjust?
No, you look fantastic. You look
Okay.
fantastic.
Well, good morning and hello, Lindy. It's so good to see you.
It's good to be here too.
And now on this, I imagine it's a snowy day in Scranton. Okay, but
yeah, a little bit snowy. It's beautiful though, as long as everybody's safe.
yes, right. And to keep you safe, I see this lovely framed picture of Our Lady behind you. Right? Is there a story to that picture?
I think it's Our Lady of Medjugorje, and I'm sure people must know what Medjugorje is, but it's a place of.
Maybe not, right? So
well, it's a place. It's a very special place. I think that it's like the spiritual center of the world. That's what Saint John Paul II said about it in 1994. And when you go there, when you travel along the roads in Croatia into Bosnia and into Herzegovina, where Medjugorje is located, you can know that you can feel and that you're approaching almost the center of the world, the spiritual center of the world. It's almost like you're being transported to heaven, because Our Lady has been appearing there since 1981, and the church has designated Medjugorje as a place of religious pilgrimage, that the faithful are allowed to go there to pray. The actual, apparitions are still being studied, and the church will not make an official, decision on the actual apparitions until they're completed. But the first days of the apparitions, the first 7 days of the apparitions, have been approved as legitimate by the church. And I went there 12, actually, I think it was 12 times. In the 80s, I was there quite a bit. And the first time I went, I didn't know much about Mary and her role and who she is in our lives as faithful Christians. I didn't know who she was supposed to be. I didn't know much about Mariology or anything. And I was kind of confused. And so I was kind of afraid that I was doing something wrong. But then when I went there, I just, for the first time in my life, if anybody listened to any of the other previous videos, they would know what an impact this had on me, because I really, when I came back, I felt for the first time in my life that I was on solid ground, that I had a home, that I had a purpose, that I had a call. Because in one of her, I had a call to God and to life in God. I wanted to be consecrated to God in a special way. I wanted to live in a religious community as a sister. So I had that already in my mind and heart. But when I went to Medjugorje in 1987, the first time, that was only about 6 years into the actual apparitions going on every day. And it was still, the village was still pretty, in a way, primitive. Like sometimes there wouldn't be running water. Sometimes, the phones would go out. You couldn't very easily get a phone call. Americans would complain because you couldn't get ice. Just things like that. It was there was all dirt roads. It was freezing cold. There wasn't always hot water or heat. But it was some place, when you go there, you never want to leave. And it's not just because it's all so comfortable, but because you know that Our Lady is actually physically present. She's actually there every single day. And there's no way to explain the effect that has on a person when they realize that. And I didn't have any trouble believing in the apparitions even before I went there, because one of my friends who was a priest told me about it. And there was an old film. It was put out in 1986. It was one of the older ones. And it talks about how Our Lady was on the hill. And she had her baby Jesus in her arms. She was covering him and uncovering him and saying and crying, saying, peace, peace, peace. And the Croatian word for peace is mir. She was saying it over and over. And it was like her cry to the world. I want this for my children. And here's the answer. My answer is my son. But she really, really was like begging us to turn to her son. And in the early days, of course, people can read about the apparitions. The children who were just young then, Mariana was around my age, probably around 16 or 17 when it started. She was the oldest one, I think. And, the youngest one was 10 years old. I went there 12 times after that. And Medjugorje for me was a kind of a, for a lot of people, they just go there and it's just a wonderful place of prayer and all that. But for me, it was a place of great, in a way, contradiction and struggle. But still, I wanted to be there, and I knew Our Lady was there, and I knew that's where God had me, and I knew that's where God was forming me. And they say that Medjugorje is a school of Our Lady. It's like the school of prayer, the school of love. And she's there literally teaching us how to pray and be converted and how to listen to her son. And she said that we should always long for heaven and keep our eyes on heaven and keep our gaze always on her son and on heaven, and to really live in heaven, like similar to what the divine will teachings of Luisa Piccarreta are. And so the two things are, to me, pretty much, they go hand in hand,
And so when you were there, okay, now you couldn't see how many pilgrims were there. You didn't see where the hill was, but you have this great sense of a shift in how it felt. Right? Could you talk to us about what that feeling was and how you were able to feel that feeling?
There's absolutely positively no comparison. And I can't stress that enough, between how it feels when you're in Medjugorje to anything else on this earth, because there is nothing like it on earth. There's no other place that Our Lady is appearing every single day she's actually physically there when the visionaries she appears to the visionaries. And so Medjugorje is like a little bit of heaven, or like the doorway to heaven. And, when I first went there, it was very crowded. It was in August, there's nowhere to sit in the church. There's nowhere to sit outside the church. There's just think of the most crowded place you could ever imagine. And everybody's praying, everybody's singing, everybody's on their knees, everybody's lining up to go to confession. Everybody. It's just I can't even think of how to describe it. And it's that way all the time. And the people in the village have been so touched by Our Lady, the people who live there, and the native people, the local people, they are so generous and they are so filled with faith. I had a family there that was so good to me. I went there 10 times and stayed in their house for like a month and a half at a time. And they literally adopted me and took me into their home and took care of me. And they were Croatian. They didn't know me. They just sponsored me. And they took me back and forth to church. They took care of all my needs while I was there. They were just, I never in my life expected that. And I was 22 when I first went there. And it changed my entire life. And all I wanted to do was pray and listen to Our Lady. And one message that she said was, now nobody is important except God. And now nothing is important except prayer. And I can't explain what that did to me. It just went right into the marrow of my bones. And I thought, that's the purpose of my life. That's what I want. And I never forgot what Our Lady said. And then another time she said, turn around, dear children, and you will see how great a ground sin has gained. And these are from the early days, these messages. And I'll never, ever forget that Our Lady said that. And she also said in 1984, she said, I ask you not to allow my heart to cry with tears of blood over the many souls that are being lost. Therefore, dear children, pray, pray, pray. And that is just, I can't even explain what that's my life. That's the purpose of my life, to help Our Lady and to be there and to be with Jesus and to stay by their side in these days. And especially in these times that we're living in this particular time that we're living in this day, in this moment, in this decade that we're living in. Because, when I first went there, it was 1987. Now it's 2023. And a lot of things have changed, or advanced, I guess you could say, or progressed, or whatever you want to call it. And now Our Lady is really, she's told us over and over, this is a time of grace. This is a time of mercy. but she's so generous. God is so generous in allowing her to come here and be with us and help us and give us a chance. And I don't know. I don't have any greater purpose than to respond to Our Lady. There's nothing else that matters. There is nothing else that matters. And one other thing that happened that really touched me so much at the beginning, there's this place behind the church. It's a little meadow. I forget what the Croatian name is, but one night Our Lady asked that the people go and pray. It was late at night. And so all the Croatian people and others from around the surrounding areas, this is at the beginning, near the beginning of the apparitions, and they went there and they all prayed in the field. And Our Lady appeared to Maria. And at that time, Maria said, Our Lady said that people could come forward and touch her if they wanted to. And several people came forward and touched her, and she all of a sudden disappeared. And then Maria was crying and said, well, Our Lady disappeared. Nobody else can see Our Lady. Only the visionaries can see Our Lady. And then Our Lady came back and Maria said, what happened? Why did you disappear? And Our Lady said, well, and her dress was all black. And Our Lady said, well, I disappeared because when everybody touched me, the sins that were on the consciences of the people, I felt them and my dress turned black. And I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't get over it. Like it just took my breath away. I can't even explain it. It felt like I was being just slain almost with Our Lady's words. I just wanted to respond. And I had that feeling since I went there the first time. And then I went there again a year later, and then I went there again and again and again and again. And then until the war started, there was a war in Bosnia. Everybody knows that, starting in 1992. And my friends that were in the village, I was good friends with a lot of people at the time in the village, and my heart was just broken. I felt like I was Croatian, and I was collecting all kinds of things for the refugees. I lived in a little apartment. It was like a little studio apartment. And from floor to ceiling, there was all kinds of packages and boxes and to load a truck for, the refugees. And I was trying very hard to follow what was going on in the war. And then after a while, I couldn't go back and I couldn't do much for Medjugorje. And I tried to just respond in the best way I could here. But even though I prayed with other people, and it just, nothing quite felt the same. It always seemed like it was missing. It was like, I don't know, I can't explain it. Nobody seemed to know really what Our Lady was saying. And I couldn't go back to Medjugorje until 2006. That was quite a long time after that was 15 years. And then I went back in 2014. So I was there quite a lot, actually. I don't really know what to say about it. It's so hard to describe. It really is. It's not just for us, it's not just so that we can go there and get refueled. It's a call. It's a call of Our Lady. She's asking us to be with her and to stay by her side and to cooperate with her and to help her with our prayers and sacrifices. And she's asking us, she's begging us as a mother. She's telling us, I'm here to help you. What greater gift. Now it's almost 42 years that she's been appearing. That's incredible. In all of church history, she's never appeared every single day for that long, and given the messages of Medjugorje are peace, prayer, conversion, renunciation and penance, and reconciliation. And of course, she stresses reading the Holy Scriptures and, loving each other and being at peace with each other and converting and all that. These are basic messages, but they never can get too old. They can never go out of style. There's something that everybody needs. I need them so much. And I try to really think about what Our Lady's saying, even though it sounds so simple, because every month she gives a message to Maria for the world. And the messages, they sound like they're the same all the time, like return to God, pray, convert, live at peace, stuff like that. And it sounds like, okay, oh, Our Lady, we heard you, but she keeps saying the same thing. And I just look at my own life and I think, oh, how can I answer Our Lady? Well, what can I do to answer her? How can I respond to her? Because at the end of every message, she says, thank you for your response to my call. Like she's she's assuming that we're going to respond, you know. I don't know. It's hard to explain it, you know. It's so important. I hope that everybody will know that this is so important. It's the most important thing that anybody could ever do, is listen to Our Lady and listen to God and turn back to God, because Our Lady said at the beginning, I come to tell you that God exists. Because, you know, today people don't even know if there is a God. There is a God. That's what Our Lady is saying. There is a God. There is a heaven. You know, that's.
All right, so I know Louis de Montfort talked about Our Lady in the last days forming an army, okay? Like a general, right? An army of saints. And I can't help but think that Medjugorje is a huge part of that organization by Our Lady, drawing those who would be part of that army. And I imagine as a general, she has to form those souls to do the work. And the formation has a lot to do with our lives. And so I'm wondering if you could be personal for a little bit on what kind of formation you felt the Lord and Our Lady were doing in you.
Well, it's a kind of a strange story. I'm sure it's not the story that most people have about Medjugorje, but on the second trip of Medjugorje, I met a priest. And it turned out that I was sexually assaulted by the priest whom I met there about 3 months after I met him. And it was a pretty brutal assault, and I was only 23. So after that, my life I didn't doubt Our Lady. I didn't lose my faith, and I didn't even lose my hope. I didn't lose my faith, hope, or love at all. But it was kind of like my life was thrown into chaos, I guess you could say. I mean, that's an understatement, really. It would probably take a whole other segment to talk about all that. But basically, I was trying to see what the Lord wanted of me through this great cross and through this great suffering, because because nobody was there to stand by my side. Father Slavko, whom anybody who knows about Medjugorje would know who Father Slavko is. He was Father Slavko Barbarich was a great, wonderful friend of mine, and he stood by me. But when I would come home in between my trips, I really didn't know what to do, and I didn't really have any support, and I was just reeling from this disastrous occurrence. I didn't know what to do. So for the first couple of years, I didn't do anything, because when I first approached church officials in the late 80s after this happened, nothing was getting worked out. They were just kind of ignoring my pleas. And I went to prelate after prelate, and nothing happened. And but that's not really the most important thing. The most important thing is what it did for me. And I just wanted to be close to Jesus, and I wanted to pray for the person that caused the harm. I'd never thought of holding any kind of grudges. I just prayed for him because I knew something was wrong. And all I wanted was for him to get some kind of help or something like that. I wasn't holding any bitterness or anything like that. I was just reeling from the trauma of it. And I was hoping and believing that the church was going to help me, but because of their own problems and stuff, they just couldn't. Like people who were in the upper echelons, for whatever reason, they couldn't help me, and they didn't help me. And so I became like an outcast for many years because of that. And I couldn't tell the story because people would kind of turn away. And it was a very difficult time in my life. And when I went back to Medjugorje several times, I would feel like I was in hell, because everything I believed in was almost like the devil would take it and mock it. Like around the church, there would be this beautiful singing. Anybody who goes to Medjugorje would hear it. It would be singing to Our Lady, Ave Maria. And I would hear the Aves in my soul, but it would just pierce me like knives, because I was just in so much agony, thinking, what happened? You know, like that. I was in agony really for a lot of years. I couldn't take the Eucharist because I would become sick every time I took it. And I just went through a lot of different spiritual pain. But I know the Lord used it. And I came back here after I couldn't go back to Medjugorje. Eventually things were worked out with the church and the officials and all that. And I had a very beautiful closure to all that event 15 years afterwards or so. It was in 2003, and I had a beautiful mass in Knock. I was given the grace of praying with the superior of the religious order and a member of the priest family for closure and for healing. And that was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful gift that God gave me and Our Lady. And I was extremely grateful for that. And that really helped me a lot, and it helped me heal. So, but as far as the formation, I think sometimes God allows things to come into our lives so that we just cling to him and him alone. Like there's nothing, there's nobody to cling to. There's no person, there's no ideology, there's no church, there's no external thing. There's just him and his cross. And that's kind of how my life has been. And I don't know, for some reason it led me to the greatest happiness. I know this sounds absolutely bizarre, but like it actually like led me to a place where I am extremely happy. And it has nothing to do with earth at all, because the earth is a dark place. The earth is very dark, and there are things like this going on. You know, multiple stories that people have. Medjugorje is a place, you know, since it's so filled with grace, it also, the devil doesn't like Medjugorje. You know, that's just a fact. You know, the arch enemy of the devil is Mary and Jesus, you know. So I don't know. I'm just so grateful for everything that happened in my life. I really am. I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful. I'm almost speechless. I almost don't even know what to say. It almost takes my breath away how good God has been to me. And I know it might sound crazy to people, but it's just when you've been touched by God so much, and I know that God has helped me every step of the way. I know that he's actually carrying me and holding me by the hand and guiding my every step. How could I not be overcome with gratitude and joy? Actually, I don't know how to explain it. It's hard to explain, really.
Well, for those who may not be able to go to Medjugorje, what message would you have for them, both in conveying this message of Our Lady, of course, but in their own personal journey? How would you recommend that they try to follow Our Lady's words?
I would say, if you can, try to read about Medjugorje on credible websites, like Mary TV is one, Mary TV, and the other one is Medjugorje. It's a very hard word to spell, so maybe we could spell it or something so that people can see it. It's a hard word to spell. It's medjugorje.hr. That's the official Medjugorje website that comes from the parish of St. James that you can trust. And there's other good websites like, you know, that I can recommend if anybody wants to know about them. But I would say that to just open your heart, because God does exist. He does have a good plan for all of us. God does love us, and Our Lady is our mother. She's our heavenly mother. She's our spiritual mother. She wants to help us in our lives to reach heaven, and she wants to help us through our daily lives. She wants to help us with all of our problems. And if we just turn to God and turn to Our Lady and follow what the gospel says and open our hearts to God and really make a heartfelt attempt to practice conversion and faith and peace and prayer and reconciliation, like try to be at peace with our neighbors, and, you know, try to pray the best you can, and, you know, let God guide you. And that'll get a person on the right path. Those things will help a person find light in the darkness, and it will help them get on the right path in their life. It doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means they'll be on the path toward heaven. It means that they'll have peace. It means that they'll be able to give great joy to other people. That's the purpose of why we're here on this earth, to give joy and happiness to others by showing the love of God to them. And that when a person does that, if they pray and they turn to God with all their hearts, and they try to really turn to God and love their neighbor and stuff, that's what Our Lady's asking, you know.
Wow. Well, that is beautiful. And your witness touches my heart. Thank you very much for that. And so as we close today and look forward to our next visit, I'd like you to just maybe issue a prayer to Our Lady on behalf of all of us.
Well, there's a prayer that Our Lady gave to one of the people that locutionists, and this young woman would hear Our Lady's voice deep down inside of her. And this is the prayer that Our Lady gave. And the prayer is, "O most pure heart of Mary, full of goodness, show your love toward us. Let the flame of your heart, O Mary, descend on all people. We love you immensely. Impress on our hearts true love, so that we long for you. O Mary, meek and humble of heart, remember us when we sin. You know that all people sin. Grant that we may always experience the goodness of your motherly heart, and that we may be healed of every spiritual sickness, and that through the flame of your heart, O Mary, we may be converted. Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lindy, and thank you for your faith and your response. And for anyone who would like to find out more about Lindy and Lighthouse in Scranton, it's lighthousehealing.org is the website. And Lindy is always there, there praying and helping as much as she can. So thank you very much, Lindy, and God bless you for this.
Thank you.
Stop button.
Oh Jesus, here I am with you, and you're here with me. Oh Lord, how can I begin to say, oh Lord, what is in my heart? Oh Lord, oh God, the love you have. Oh God, the love you pour out to us. Oh, the love you have. Oh God, you pour out to us. We are like a shadow passing under your hand. We are